Packages kept showing up at my house, all with my name. I thought it was a mix-up, until one arrived with my young daughter's name on it. That's when I realized someone was watching us. The first package came on a Tuesday morning. I was rinsing dishes when the knock at the door startled me. Our mailman usually left parcels on the porch without ringing, so I wiped my hands on a towel and opened the door. There, it sat, a medium-sized brown box taped shut with my name, printed neatly on the label. I frowned because I hadn't ordered anything that week, and with bills piling up, I definitely hadn't splurged on a mystery delivery. I picked it up heavier than it looked, brought it inside and set it on the counter for a moment. I just stared at it. The box looked so ordinary, yet something about it felt wrong. Maybe it was the timing, or maybe it was how precise my name and address appeared. No mistakes, no smudges. My daughter Lily patted into the kitchen, dragging her blanket. She was 4 with bright curls and curious eyes. "Mommy, what is it?" she asked, pointing at the box. I smiled tightly. "Just a package, sweetheart," but inside my chest, unease twisted. Should I open it? What if it was a mistake meant for a neighbor? Or worse, a scam? I sliced the tape with a kitchen knife inside. Were books, children's books, brand new, glossy covers, stories about animals and bedtime adventures. My stomach tightened. I hadn't ordered these. I flipped through receipts, nothing. No charges on my card, no gift message, no clue. I asked around neighbors, family. No one claimed responsibility. Maybe someone clicked the wrong address online. Shopping mistakes happened all the time still. I couldn't shake the strangeness, especially when I checked the shipping label again. My name spelled perfectly, my address. Flawless too flawless. Like whoever sent it knew me well. I set the books aside, but that night, lying awake, I kept thinking about the package. Who sends children's books unasked to a single mother trying to stay afloat? My mind looped through scenarios: a kind stranger, a clerical error, or something darker. 2 days later, another knock, another package, this one smaller, wrapped in bubble mailer again. With my name again, with no explanation, inside a stuffed rabbit. Soft pink floppy ears. Lily squealed with joy, hugging it tight. My skin crawled, though my daughter was delighted. By the end of the week, 3 more boxes had arrived. Clothes in Lily's size socks with cartoon prints, crayons and stickers, all brand new, all from random vendors online, none ordered by me. At first, I laughed nervously with Megan, my best friend, who joked, "I must have a secret admirer." But by the 5th package, my laughter was gone, replaced with a pit in my stomach. I started wondering if I was being watched each time I stepped outside. I felt eyes on me. Shadows lingered too long at the corner of the street, yet I saw no one. My hands shook when the doorbell rang again. Saturday morning, another box waiting, larger, heavier, and when I carried it inside, my breath caught. The label wasn't just my name anymore. It said, "To Lily," in bold black ink. What would you do if strange packages kept arriving at your house? Would you open them or call the police right away? I stood frozen in the kitchen, staring at the label, the letters bold and clear: "To Lily." My little girl's name, printed as if she had placed the order herself, but she was only 4. She barely knew how to write her own name, let alone type it into an online store. My pulse hammered in my ears as I set the box down. Lily tugged at my sleeve, her wide eyes sparkling. "Can I open it?" "Mommy, please, please." Her excitement made my fear harder to manage. I forced a smile and told her maybe later after breakfast. Then I tucked the box high on the fridge, out of reach. The sight of it up there gnawed at me all morning, the weight of it pressing against my chest, though I hadn't even touched it again. Megan came by with coffee. She laughed when I showed her the label, but her laugh was short and uneasy. "This isn't funny anymore," she muttered. "What if someone's messing with you?" She suggested calling the shipping company, maybe the police. But when I tried customer service, all they could tell me was the return address was a warehouse outside town, a generic facility used by multiple vendors. By noon, I couldn't resist. I sliced the tape open slowly, careful not to let Lily near. Inside was a doll. Not just any doll, it was a little girl with curly hair just like Lily's, wearing a blue dress with tiny embroidered flowers, identical to the dress Lily had worn at daycare the week before. I nearly dropped it, my hands shaking. Megan whispered, "That's not coincidence, someone is watching you." I wanted to deny it, but deep down I knew she was right. That night I hardly slept. Every creak of the house made me jump. I checked the locks twice. Then 3 times I even pulled the curtains tight, but couldn't shake the feeling of being observed. In the middle of the night, I thought I saw movement across the street near the old oak tree, but when I blinked, the shadow was gone. Sunday morning, another package waited, this time tucked carefully against the doorframe as if placed by hand, not left by the mailman. My stomach turned when I bent down to read the label again. To Lily, I didn't open it. Not right away. Instead, I called the police, finally ready to take it seriously. The officer who arrived was young, polite, but clearly skeptical. He asked if I had enemies or angry exes. I shook my head no. He told me to keep the packages as evidence and to call again. If anything escalated, then he left as if this was nothing more than a prank. But it didn't feel like a prank, not when the packages were so specific. So tailored to my daughter, I opened the latest box. Later that day, my heart heavy inside were crayons, coloring books, and a note folded neatly between them, written in blocky, childish handwriting. "For Lily, have fun." Would you open the package if it had your child's name on it? Or would you leave it sealed and call the police immediately? The note lay on the counter like a threat, though it looked innocent. Blocky letters written on lined paper. "For Lily, have fun." The kind of thing a teacher might write, but there was no return name, no explanation. My hands shook as I read it. Megan took one look and muttered, "Someone is watching your kid." I wanted to believe it was still a mistake, maybe a mix-up from some online wish list, maybe a friend trying to surprise Lily, but deep inside my gut twisted, telling me none of that was true. The handwriting looked off too, almost like an adult trying to write like a child. I hid the note in a drawer out of Lily's sight, but she asked again and again when she could play with her new toys. I lied, told her we had to wait until I cleaned them. She pouted, but eventually forgot. Drifting back into cartoons, her laughter filling the living room, but my smile was thin and forced. That evening, I took the trash out and froze halfway down the driveway. Across the street by the oak tree, I saw it again. A figure standing too still, too tall to be anyone out for a casual walk. They didn't move when I glanced over, they just stood there in the shadow of the tree. When I looked again, they were gone, swallowed by the dusk. My skin prickled. I rushed back inside, double-locked the door, and peeked out the window for an hour straight. Nothing. I kept hearing my mom's voice in my head, reminding me to trust my instincts, but I didn't want to sound paranoid. Monday morning, another package appeared, smaller this time, sitting neatly on the porch. No knock, no sound, no sign of the mailman. I checked the cameras the landlord had installed on the building, but of course the angle was bad. It didn't catch the porch, just the street. Inside the padded envelope was a bracelet, plastic beads strung on a thin elastic cord. The letters spelled out Lily. My breath caught. It was too specific, too personal. This wasn't random, not anymore. Someone knew my daughter's name, her age, her favorite colors. Someone was leaving these things deliberately. I carried the envelope to the police station myself. The officer at the desk barely glanced at it, told me to file a report and wait. They'd let me know if anything developed. He didn't understand the urgency, my shaking hands, the fear crawling under my skin. When I asked if they could at least patrol near my house more often, he said they'd see what they could do, but not to expect much. That night, I sat by the window, lights off, curtains cracked just enough to see the street for hours. Nothing. Then just before midnight, a movement. A shadow slipping across the lawn, low, fast, deliberate. My heart stopped. I held my breath, not daring to move. If you saw someone lurking near your home after these deliveries, would you confront them or hide and call for help? I pressed my face to the glass and watched the dark shape move across the lawn low, like someone crawling or bending to hide behind the hedge. My throat tightened. I wanted to shout, but knew noise would send them running. Instead, I dialed 911 with trembling fingers. The operator asked for my address. I gave it clipped words. She said an officer would be dispatched and to stay inside. I waited. Every creak sounded loud. From the window, a silhouette paused by the porch, then knelt, hands working near the door. A bag or envelope. My stomach flipped. I peered through the blinds and breathed too loud. The shadow snapped up and darted toward the alley. Sirens wailed. A patrol car slowed at the corner. Blue lights painting my living room. Two officers stepped out, flashlights sweeping the curb. They crossed the yard, footsteps crunching on froth-coated grass. They checked the porch and called in their findings, then waved to me, mouthed, "Everything clear." I let out a breath I hadn't known I was holding. My knees shook as I met them outside. The officer explained they had found a parcel near the door, torn open, mostly empty. They dusted for prints, took my statement and said they'd increase patrols and recommended better cameras and lights. I tried to feel reassured, but the silence after they left felt heavy. The parcel had a smudge of soil inside, like someone had dug a hole and set it down. I thought of the beads, the bracelet, the doll, how each gift grew more personal. All day I was on edge. Friends texted my landlord, offered to install a motion light, which I accepted, though I worried. Changing the routine might anger whoever watched us. That night, I sat with Lily, pretending to read a story while my eyes tracked the street through the curtain. The porch light cast a pool of safety, yet I felt exposed. Then a message appeared on my phone. No number, just words. "Hi, Lily. Nice bracelet." The text landed like a slap. My blood ran cold. Who had my number? How long had they watched our comings and goings? I held Lily close until her breathing evened out. The next morning, I called Detective Alvarez, the number the officer had given me. He answered calm and told me to bring the parcel and bracelet and to email him the photos. I complied, desperate for someone to take this seriously. He asked detailed questions about times, names of delivery companies, and whether I had any suspects. I rattled off the vendors, the odd return addresses, the bench where I had seen the figure and the bracelet letters. He said he would run the parcel for prints and check surveillance routes and suggested I not open any more packages. He arranged to visit afternoon with a detective from the cyber unit who might trace the messages. I felt a thread of relief at a voice promising action. If you saw someone lurking near your home after these deliveries, would you confront them or hide and call for help? Detective Alvarez arrived calm and steady, carrying an evidence bag and notebook, before he knelt to greet Lily softly, smiling. He examined each parcel, photographed the labels, logged timestamps, and asked me to repeat every delivery detail slowly and clearly. Detective Chen from Cybercrimes joined, carrying a laptop, and asked technical questions about the unknown number and message origin. They explained how scammers used warehouses, drop points, prepaid SIM cards, and spoofed numbers to hide their tracks. And internationally, Chen suggested we preserve screenshots, cloud backups, and forward every threatening text and unknown contact to the cyber unit. Immediately, Alvarez promised to canvass nearby stores, ask for surveillance footage, check the warehouse return address for pickup records and receipts. He also asked the landlord to install improved lighting and a high-resolution camera facing the porch and building entrance. Neighbors offered tips. An elderly woman from 3B remembered a van idling near the alley late at night. Last week, I felt relief watching officers move through the building, but it came with a prick of dread in my chest. The landlord installed a camera by dusk, and I watched the footage frame by frame, hoping to catch a shadow. At 11:43 p.m., a figure crossed the frame in dark clothes, hat, and gloves, moving fast like someone practiced. I froze. The image zoomed, paused, eyes burning, searching for a mark, limp, or anything unique, but found nothing. Still, Detective Chen traced the message to prepaid numbers and purchases at a convenience store 3 blocks from my building away. They subpoenaed store footage, and 48 hours later, I watched a woman in a hoodie buy a reload card. Her face was obscured, but she had a distinctive limp I had glimpsed before, and the sight made my stomach turn. The precinct checked old reports and found a trespass citation tied to a woman named Rosa, who used to live nearby. Rosa's last known address matched a storage unit near the warehouse return address, and detectives took interest that night. Immediately, they obtained a warrant and searched a storage unit, finding boxes labeled with my address and dozens of children's items. Detective Alvarez stared at the boxes, then at me. his face unreadable before he said, "We will catch them." I wanted to believe him. Yet fear settled knowing someone had crossed into our lives and taken my daughter's belongings. Would you confront someone you suspected, or let the detectives handle the confrontation? Detective Alvarez called me the next morning, his voice low, steady. They had found more than boxes in the storage unit. He asked me to come down to the station, but not to bring Lily. My heart raced as I arranged for Megan to watch her. At the precinct, the evidence lay spread across a long table, rows of parcels, some already opened. Inside were dolls, stuffed animals, clothes, all clearly meant for children, each tagged with labels, some with my name, some with Lily's, but also other names. Different addresses, different kids. Alvarez explained it looked like Rosa had been running some kind of twisted game, ordering items in children's names and delivering them by hand. He said the goal wasn't clear yet. Maybe grooming, maybe intimidation, maybe obsession. I shivered. Hearing it put so plainly, Chen showed me a laptop seized from the unit. On the desktop, dozens of folders bore titles with first names, girls' ages, addresses inside were photos. Some lifted from social media, some that looked candid, snapped from parks or schoolyards. My breath caught when I saw Lily's curls. In one shot taken outside our own building, my hands clenched the edge of the table until my knuckles went white. They assured me they were building a case that Rosa had disappeared from her last known location, but they believed she might return for more packages. They asked if I would be willing to cooperate in a sting, leaving my porch under surveillance to see if she would deliver again. My stomach nodded, but I nodded anything to end this. That night, back at home, every sound set my nerves on edge. Lily slept clutching her rabbit, oblivious. Megan stayed over on the couch armed with coffee and pepper spray. We tried to keep the mood light, but every knock on the pipes, every creak in the building made us glance at the new porch camera footage on my phone. At 2:14 a.m., the alert chimed. I jolted awake on the couch. Megan sat up, eyes wide. We tapped into the feed. A figure approached the porch, slowly carrying a parcel. Same dark hoodie, same limp. My breath caught as she leaned down, placed the box gently, then lingered too long, her head tilting toward the window as if she could see us watching. Minutes later, squad cars rolled up, lights flashing. Officers swarmed the porch. Detained her right there. Rosa finally caught. My chest heaved with relief and terror mingled, knowing she had stood at my door so many nights unseen. The parcel she left contained another doll, but this one had a stitched tag sewn on the dress that read, "Lily, property of Rosa." My stomach flipped. I turned away, tears stinging my eyes. If you discovered someone had a folder of your child's photos, would you move away immediately or fight back with the evidence? At the station, Rosa sat across the table. Small, wiry hair tucked under the hood of a county sweatshirt, her limp more noticeable now. Detective Alvarez leaned forward, calm, steady, asking questions, but Rosa barely looked up. She toyed with her sleeve, eyes darting. I sat behind the glass in the observation room, hands clasped so tight my nails bit my skin. He asked about the packages. She smiled, faint, crooked, and said, "Children like presents, it makes them happy." Her voice was low, rough like gravel. My stomach lurched. She denied stalking, insisted she was helping families who couldn't afford nice things. But the folders, the messages, the dolls with stitched tags betrayed her story. Detective Chen slid a photo across the table. The one of Lily Rosa's gaze lingered too long before she looked away. She muttered something about angels needing protection from bad mothers. My chest seized. I wanted to storm and scream, but Alvarez's calm voice anchored the room. He asked her to explain. She shook her head, laughing softly, repeating the word angels over and over until it sounded broken. They tried different tactics, good cop, bad cop, questions about the warehouse, about the van, about the other names on the folders. She never admitted to anything direct instead, drifting into riddles about children being gifts and how parents did not deserve them. Alvarez eventually pushed back his chair and ended the session saying they had enough already. Back in the hallway, he told me Rosa would face charges: trespass, stalking, possession of stolen property, maybe more once cybercrimes finished combing her laptop, but he warned me not to relax yet. He said people like Rosa often had accomplices sometimes, whole groups trading information online. He promised to run Lily's name through databases, see if it had surfaced anywhere else. My knees shook, but I nodded. Grateful someone believed the danger now. That night, I locked every window, double-checked every door. Megan stayed again, keeping Lily occupied with cartoons while I scrolled forums and news desperate for clues. I found threads about a package scheme called brushing scams, where sellers sent fake orders to inflate reviews, but those didn't explain the dolls with names, the photos, the obsession. This wasn't about money. It was about control or fixation or something darker. 2 days later, another text appeared from a new number. This one said, "You cannot keep Lily forever. My angels find their way home." My blood iced. I rushed to Alvarez, who took the phone, grim-faced. He said it confirmed his fear. Rosa wasn't working alone. There was at least one other watching. If you knew there might be more than one person targeting your child, would you go into hiding or stay and fight with the police? The new message felt colder than the first. It read, "You are running out of time. No flourish, no teasing. Just a threat that landed like a stone in my chest." I called Alvarez and forwarded the text. He told me not to respond and arranged extra patrols, but promises did not erase the dread. Detectives dug deeper and uncovered encrypted threads where people traded photos, names, and delivery routes. They called it a network. At least 3 people coordinating to buy items, print labels, and deliver packages to children's addresses. The ledger of receipts and notes made the operation look like a tiny, cruel business. I lived 2 lives during those days. The bright one for Lily, full of cartoon snacks and bedtime stories, and the dark one for the case phone calls, screenshots, lists of vendors, and timelines. I changed our walks, altered pickup routes, and installed a panic alarm that screamed on my phone if doors opened without my code. The small measures felt necessary and sometimes soothing. Then Alvarez reported a break. A P.O. box used to buy supplies had been traced to a storage locker in an industrial area 3 towns away. With a warrant, officers opened the unit and found stacks of packed parcels, labels piled like paperwork, folders of names and printed photos, annotated with times and routes. It was organized, meticulous, and cold. They also found a spiral notebook. One page showed my daughter's name written again and again beside other children's names, numbers circled with routes. The detective's face when he placed it in front of me was grave. He said, "This is coordination, not a lone actor." The anger that rose in me was hot and clear. I refused to sit paralyzed. I asked if I could help, even if it meant playing a role in a controlled sting. Alvarez refused to put Lily at risk, but he welcomed my cooperation in other ways. He suggested I help by raising local awareness and collecting each delivery record. We arranged a meeting at the community center to warn neighbors and gather reports. The hall filled with people clutching coffee, toddlers at their knees, parents trading stories, older neighbors who had seen vans idling, or odd men asking questions about kids. They brought parcels, receipts, and return labels. Others admitted a package had arrived to their address. They had shrugged it off as a clerical error. The scope felt bigger than I had imagined. At the end, an elderly man stood up, trembling. He told the room his grandson had received a box last month, and the man who left it had tipped his hat and said, "Be careful with your angels." The room went quiet. I felt a strange kinship, then a steadier resolve. We were no longer just targets. We were neighbors forming a line against whatever had been watching us. We vowed to watch each other until danger was gone. Would you go public with a community meeting to warn neighbors or keep it private to avoid panic? 2 nights after the meeting, I was walking Lily back from Megan's when I noticed a dark van parked at the corner, engine idling, no lights on. My stomach tightened. The shape of the vehicle felt too familiar, like the one from the footage the night Rosa was caught. I ducked us quickly into the hallway, heart-pounding fingers fumbling with the keys. Once inside, I pulled back the curtain just enough to peek. The van didn't move. It just sat there waiting. The longer it stayed, the more my fear sharpened into rage. I called Alvarez. He told me to stay inside. Officers were on the way. He asked if I could keep eyes on the van without putting myself at risk. I agreed, though my hands trembled, holding the phone. 10 minutes felt like an hour before a patrol car rolled up the street, blue lights cutting the dark. The van pulled away, slow at first, then faster. The cruiser followed. Later, Alvarez called back. They had stopped it 3 blocks away. 2 men inside, no Rosa, but the trunk held parcels already labeled with kids' names. Some names from the notebook, including Lily's. My throat went dry. He said they were being questioned but wouldn't talk, both claiming they were just delivery drivers paid cash. No idea who hired them. The police seized their phones, hoping for traces of communication to link back to someone higher up. The network was deeper than any of us wanted to believe. That night, I couldn't sleep. The idea of men driving around with my daughter's name written on boxes made me sick. I sat in the dark, staring at Lily's door, listening to her soft breathing. I promised myself no one would ever touch her. I'd burn the whole scheme to the ground before that happened. The next day, Alvarez invited me to see the evidence room. Rows of seized parcels lay tagged and cataloged. It was staggering. Hundreds of boxes with children's names across the state. He explained the theory that this wasn't just obsession. It was a recruitment method, drawing kids in with gifts, making them feel chosen, then coaxing them into dangerous hands. Hearing it made my blood run cold, but it also fueled me with resolve. I offered to share my story publicly. Alvarez hesitated, but finally agreed, saying attention might pressure the hidden players into making mistakes. We planned a press conference for the following week. When I told Megan, she squeezed my hand and said, "You're brave, but also you're bait." I nodded because I already knew. If you saw a strange van watching your home, would you confront it, call the police, or stay silent and hide? The day of the press conference, the air felt heavy. I stood at the podium with Alvarez by my side, cameras flashing, microphones thrust forward. My voice shook at first, but steadied as I told the story. From the first wrong package to the moment Rosa stood on my porch, I explained how the boxes weren't harmless mistakes, but part of something bigger, how children were being targeted. I looked into the lenses and said, plainly, my daughter's name was on their list. The silence in the room was absolute before questions erupted. Who are they? How many children are at risk? Are the police in control? Alvarez answered calmly, assuring them the investigation was ongoing, but I knew the message was already spreading. That night, news anchors repeated Lily's name and showed photos of the dolls with stitched tags. 2 days later, my phone lit with a new text. "No angels belong on stage. You've made a mistake." I forwarded it to Alvarez, but before the police could trace the number, the world gave me its own answer. Cameras outside my building captured a man approaching the porch, hood drawn, parcel in hand. Instead of leaving it, he struck a match and tried to set the box alight. Patrol officers swarmed within minutes, dragging him down, kicking and screaming. The fire was small, quickly stamped out, but my knees still gave way when Alvarez showed me the footage. The man confessed in interrogation. He wasn't the leader, only a runner working for someone he called the Watcher, a name whispered in those encrypted forms. He said Rosa was loyal to him, that he had dozens of lists that he didn't stop just because one of them got caught. The detectives didn't share everything, but I could see in their eyes this wasn't finished. Still, they had enough now to shut down storage units, seize servers, freeze accounts. The network fractured in the days that followed, people scattered, vanishing from threads, phones going dark. The Watcher remained a shadow, but the arrests mounted. For me, life became a balance of healing and hypervigilance. Lily still laughed, still asked for ice cream after school, still cuddled her rabbit at bedtime. I tried to let her innocence guide me back to calm, but every package at the door made me flinch until I saw the label with my name, truly mine. Neighbors thanked me for speaking out. Some said the meeting saved them from ignoring what they'd seen. Others admitted they had been afraid to say anything at all. I realized my voice had mattered more than I thought. Alvarez called a month later to tell me Rosa had accepted a plea deal. She would be off the streets for years, maybe longer. I sat at the kitchen table, phone pressed to my ear, staring at Lily coloring at the counter. I felt both relief and an ache like a wound that would never fully close. That night, I tucked her in and whispered a promise soft into her curls. No one will ever take you away from me. My angel, stay home. If you uncovered a dangerous network targeting children, would you risk going public to stop it or protect your family quietly in the shadows?